When I was just a kid, my parents never stopped fighting. It was because of my dad's cheating. He was handsome and competent at his job, so I guess people around him couldn't resist. Despite getting caught multiple times, he never stopped cheating. It was as if he was pushing my mom's limits. By the time I turned 5, Mom reached her breaking point. I remember crying and yelling.
How selfish can you be? You asked me to leave just because you got a child with another woman. What about Sarah, then?
Enough. Sarah's already 5. The new one's just been born.
So what? Don't you remember who did you marry?
I said, I'll support you guys. Just understand it already.
Even at that young age, I could sense how self-centered his arguments were. A dad who had a child with another woman while still having his wife. A mom pressured by my dad to divorce for his mistress and their child. Amid the chaos, I'd wonder, what's that child like? Eventually, Mom left Dad and moved out. Since then, I've never seen my father. After high school, I immediately started working. I wanted to help my mom as soon as possible. At first, I worked in a supermarket, managing stock and restocking shelves. I wasn't great with customers. After about 6 months, I started studying for the bookkeeping certification, heavily encouraged by a part-time older lady. Once I got that certification, my job prospects widened, and I luckily started working at my current company. I'm not particularly skilled. The only reason I kept my job was the support from those around me. Being diligent and reserved, my colleagues often looked out for me. I was fortunate with the employees in my office as well. And then I got someone special at work. A guy from the sales department, Bob Smith. If it wasn't for Bob, I might not have come to terms with my mom's death. Yes, she passed away suddenly due to a severe illness when I was 21. I can't forget the words she repeatedly told me while lying in her hospital bed.
Cherish your bonds with others.
Bob was with me during those final moments.
Leave Sarah to me. I'll take care of her forever,
he said. Amid the grief, Mom managed a small smile before she took her last breath. Growing up witnessing my parents' strained relationship, thanks to Bob, I experienced a happy married life. We were blessed with children, and after maternity leave, I could safely return to the same department. Balancing work and parenting isn't easy at all. Once again, the understanding and cooperation from those around me were invaluable. Sorry, manager. Just got a call from the daycare. My kids come down with a fever.
That stuff. Go right away. I'll handle your pending work.
Hey, manager. I'll be free in about 10 minutes. Just let me know whatever you need.
I'll be finishing up soon too. Sarah, hurry up and take over with him.
Yes, thank you all so much. Many of them were married, so they were understanding. But even aside from that, I felt truly blessed to be surrounded by such people. However, those happy moments didn't last long. One day, out of the blue, Bob passed away. It was a car accident during working hours. Now, like my mother, I have become a single parent. I didn't have the luxury of dwelling in my sorrow. Parenting and work won't wait for me to stop crying. I turned the condolences and encouragement from my colleagues into strengths and started working hard again. A few months later, to fill the gap left by Bob, a new recruit joined our sales team.
My name is Camila Johnson. Nice to meet you all.
A stunning beauty and a capable salesperson with many accomplishments, Camila Johnson. Rumor had it she was well known in the industry, and the boss was thrilled she had joined us. And indeed, her skills were the real deal. Within 6 months of joining, she clinched several major deals in succession. Soon she was a part of the decision-making process in our department, and 2 years later, she was leading it. Camila had a captivating charm about her, and she knew it. She had an uncanny ability to understand what people wanted and adapt to them. Some employees felt she was standoffish, while others felt she favored them. It seemed she adjusted her attitude based on their enthusiasm and interest in her. What's more, she did it so naturally that it never felt obnoxious. Most employees were taken in by Camila, except for a few like me. I did my best to avoid interacting with her. I wanted to keep my distance. She probably noticed my aversion. After all, I wasn't as good at hiding my feelings as she was. the office became divided between the vast majority who were pro-Camila and a small minority who weren't. It was around this time that the economic downturn began to cast a dark shadow on the company's performance. Salaries and infrastructure investments were affected, and the atmosphere at the company gradually deteriorated. It was painful to feel the growing discontent among my colleagues. Backbiting increased, and people became more abrasive in their language. Some even began openly berating one another. Worse, no one seemed to want to step in. Most just turned a blind eye. Then came a proposal that only added to the chaos. It was from Camila.
Let's boost our strengths through interdepartmental personnel exchange.
She said the goal was to rebuild as a resilient company, ready for any situation. Unfortunately, I was chosen for this personnel exchange and was assigned to the sales team led by her. What I learned in sales was just how unsuited I was for it. That's about it. Being passive, wearing my emotions on my sleeve, and lacking in sociability weren't exactly assets in sales. But that didn't mean I could just sit around. I had targets to meet, and failure to achieve them would label me incompetent.
Why can't you handle even such simple tasks? I really don't get it.
Camila would sometimes throw such blatant sarcastic remarks my way. And once she started, there was no stopping her. There wasn't a single ally for me within the team. Nobody would defend me from her.
Isn't your work just too slow? I wish you'd pick up the pace. People won't like you if you're so standoffish, you know? It's all about the sales smile. Got it. Please, can you at least follow through with what you say? Can you stop dragging us down? You're so useless.
Almost every day, I was bombarded with these harsh words, and my motivation to work plummeted. But I couldn't take any days off. If I failed, I wouldn't be able to make ends meet. I needed to keep working for the sake of a happy life with my child. Back then, I believe my focus was more on protecting myself than on my job. I was constantly thinking about how to avoid any sarcastic comments from Camila or even how to avoid seeing her altogether. There were quite a few employees who were going through the same struggles as me. All of them were not by her side, and many of them were either mentally distressed or deeply hurt. Naturally, the number of employees quitting increased. No farewell parties were held. No words of encouragement were given. The company's performance kept declining, and things became increasingly disorganized. One day, I was summoned to the boss's office. Wondering what the boss wanted, I asked, and there she was.
You finally made it. Aren't you always so slow?
It was Camila. She seemed very close to the boss, too close for comfort.
We happened to talk about you, and since Miss Camila wanted to confirm something directly, so...
What on earth did they want to confirm? When our eyes met, she gave me a mocking laugh.
Sarah, is it true you only have a high school diploma?
What? Yes, I do, but...
No way. There really are people like that here. Well, I guess that can't be helped then.
What couldn't be helped? Camila, smiling smugly, reported to the boss.
I'll reorganize the interdepartmental collaboration teams, adding the information that she only has a high school diploma.
The boss, who couldn't argue against their star performer, reluctantly seemed to agree. All right. Then she approached me and whispered in my ear.
Sorry, I don't need a high school grad in my team. Well then, boss, we'll be on our way.
I was ushered out of the boss's office by her. The corridor was empty, just the two of us. This is exactly the situation I had hoped to avoid.
The performance of my team, the one formed through interdepartmental collaboration, was at the bottom.
Is that so?
It's not just is that so. Who do you think is to blame for that?
She was insinuating it was all my fault. I believe a team should help cover for members who might be struggling. Is it really possible for a company to grow by only keeping the competent ones? She was swapping out team members aggressively for her own objectives. I was completely fed up.
What's with that look?
Nothing really.
If you go against me, you'll be fired. For someone like me now, that's pretty easy, you know.
After hearing such words, I made up my mind. There are other companies out there. I don't have any reason to stay and suffer here. The next day, I handed in my resignation to the boss. What surprised me was that upon hearing of my departure, many others followed suit. Most of them were female office workers who often interacted with me.
If you are leaving, we're leaving too. We can't stand the way this company operates anymore.
I was taken aback. I didn't realize that I was someone people looked up to. The news that several female employees, including myself, were quitting spread like wildfire throughout the company. The higher-ups weren't pleased, but we remained firm in our decision. On my last day at work,
Wait, Sarah?
someone called out to me as I was leaving the office. It was Camila. She was running towards me, looking distressed. I knew that recently she had become the scapegoat for the company's issues. Part of the reason the company lost so many employees was due to her. The company seemed to have finally recognized that.
I've been talking to HR about the people who are quitting.
Why, trying to find reasons to persuade us to stay.
I apologize for prying into personal details without permission. I'm sorry.
I was about to leave, but she stopped me with her loud voice.
Why did you keep silent? Didn't you notice, sis?
Sis. I turned around to face her once more. Yes, I had noticed from the beginning. The surname Johnson she had before marriage. The age difference between us. Her facial features. And most importantly, the self-centered nature, so much like my father. She is my half-sister. Surprisingly, tears began to stream down her face.
My dad and mom are both gone due to illness. I've always lived alone.
Then, she began to speak in bits and pieces. She found out at some point that she was a child born out of her father's cheating. She couldn't be proud of her birth, resented her irresponsible and promiscuous parents, and grew up without trusting anyone. All she had was a rebellious attitude towards her parents and thoughts of how to use those around her to get by. She's come this far by not opening up to anyone, using her talents and charm as her weapons.
But I've reached my limit. It's the same no matter where I work. In the end, people always leave.
You can't fool me with that. You're always thinking about yourself, not caring about others.
But you are the only family I have now. If you also leave me,
Camila, with tears streaming down, I spoke to. About everything since my parents got divorced.
Cherish your bonds with others.
With those words, my mom left me. I've lived earnestly till now. I might be leaving the company, but I'm not alone. I have a child and connections with friends. The child is a testament to the deep connection between Bob and me. Unbreakable bonds with friends prove it too. It's evidence that I've always valued relationships with others. You might want to think about others too, not just pity yourself all the time.
think about others too.
Just that might change a lot.
Sarah?
I started walking, leaving her sobbing behind. I never looked back. Later on, I did something I never imagined I'd do after resigning. I reached out to trustworthy colleagues, and together, we started a new company. Thanks to the many skilled members who joined, our performance improved year by year. On the other hand, the company I used to work for couldn't recover from its poor performance and eventually went bankrupt. Several years have passed. To our surprise, an unexpected individual came in for a job interview.
My name is Camila Johnson.
Meeting her after such a long time, her eyes seemed strangely clearer and more straightforward than before.
I'd like to start from scratch and learn everything here. Please give me a chance.
She looked completely sincere. There was no reason to refuse. Everyone faces setbacks at some point in their lives. My colleagues and I welcomed her and took a new step forward together.
In this cemetery overlooking the sea, 1,000 snowdrop trees are planted, and during the peak season, one can witness breathtaking scenic views with the blue sea in the background. Right now, the flowers have not fully bloomed yet, and the branches have just begun to be tinted faintly white. The grave where my parents rest is a little removed from the main section, located in a quiet spot where a large snowdrop tree stands. The sea can also be seen in the distance. They bloomed again this year. I touch the warm trunk of the old tree and sigh with relief. Lately, visiting the grave in this season has become something of an annual event. My name is Thomas Palmer, 29 years old. This spring, I graduated with a master's degree. I will soon return to my grandfather's home in New York and will start working for a pharmaceutical company in April. Today, I came here to report this to my parents. In front of the grave, I offered my father's favorite canned beer and donuts for my mother, who loved sweets, and sat under the sunflower tree facing the grave, drinking my own beer. A bit early for a snowdrop viewing, isn't it? A comfortable spring breeze caresses my cheeks. Suddenly, I saw the figure of an elderly woman walking towards me. I quickly stood up and squinted. Mrs. Adams. Mrs. Adams is the head mistress of Sea of Light Home, a children's care facility about 15 minutes drive from this cemetery.
Oh my, Thomas.
She stopped in surprise and then walked slowly over. I hadn't seen her since last summer, so only about half a year had passed, but she looked like she'd aged quite a bit.
What a coincidence. I'm so happy to see you, Thomas. How have you been?
She took my hand and squinted with joy. The wrinkles at the corners of her eyes, her charm point, had deepened. Yes, sorry I haven't kept in touch. Are you well, Mrs. Adams?
Yes, same as usual. Surrounded by children. It's a hustle and bustle every day,
she said while arranging the flowers she brought. Thank you for always coming, for the flowers, and everything else.
It's okay, I like it here and feel comfortable coming. Oh, an old lady coming to the grave voluntary. How funny.
She laughed at her own words. And after visiting my parents' grave, she said, if you have time, why don't you stop by home? I have something to give you, and gave me a ride in her car. Descending from the hilltop cemetery, the previous silence disappeared, and the colorful city landscape, eagerly awaiting the arrival of spring, jumped into view. The car drove through the city and approached the coastal road.
So, did you get your room cleaned up? Sorry, I couldn't help you with that,
she said, looking out the driver's side window. No, I didn't have much stuff anyway. Would you mind if we stop here for a moment? I bought cream puffs as souvenirs for the children at a pastry shop we found along the way. You didn't have to. She hesitated, but then put her hands together in front of her face, saying, but the kids will love it, thank you. As we drove along the coastline with mountains to our right, a small fishing harbor soon appeared in a narrow bay. Then we climbed a little up the hill to the children's care facility, Sea of Light Home. From the hilltop facility, you can see several fishing boats in the harbor, some fishermen and fishers at work on the breakwater, and a beautiful port town spread out below. Here, children who have lost parents, or who need care due to abuse or neglect, are accommodated and supported for independence after leaving. Now, 14 children from ages 3 to high school live here. Passing by a wooden signboard with paint peeling off and hard to read, I walked through the gate. The day my father died, I was also brought here in a car from the facility and walked through this gate. I lived here for only a month when I was 10, but the anxiety and pain in my chest from that time are still vivid in my memory. I also clearly remember the warmth when Mrs. Adams said, "It's okay," and hugged me, trembling and small. Even now, thinking about it almost brings tears to my eyes. Mrs. Adams dropped me off in front of the entrance, saying, "Go inside and wait," and went to park the car. I was about to enter the building when I suddenly looked at the small playground next to the building. I found a boy around 3rd or 4th grade, sitting alone on a piece of playground equipment, slide. I saw myself in him at that age. My mother passed away from illness when I was very young. Since then, my father, a construction worker, raised me all by himself. That night, my father was going to be late because of overtime. "I'll be home by 9," he promised, and I waited for him by doing homework and watching TV. I had dozed off and was awakened by the loud sound of a fire truck siren. The time was a little past 10. The TV, left on, had switched to a news program. Strong winds from the ocean were rattling the poorly built windows of our apartment. I felt a sudden unease and called my father's cell, but there was no answer. When anxiety had begun to take over, I heard a knock at the door. "Dad?" I leaped up and rushed to the door. When I opened the door, there was an unfamiliar middle-aged woman and a police officer who asked, "Are you Thomas Johnson?" I don't remember much after that. When I came to, I was in the arms of Mrs. Adams. That night, on his way home, my father noticed flames coming from the second floor of a fishing lodge near our home. A guest's careless smoking had caused a fire. Fanned by the strong winds, the fire grew more fierce. There had been 2 other fires that day, and the fire trucks were delayed. Hearing from the lodge's staff that someone was trapped, my father rushed in alone. Soon after, he emerged from the entrance, carrying the trapped person. Both were taken to the hospital by the arriving paramedics. The person my father had saved seemed to have severe burns but survived. But my father, during the rescue, a falling beam struck him in the back, and he died in the ambulance before reaching the hospital. I heard all of this much later from the lodge's landlady.
That was around the time you came here, Thomas.
Turning around to the voice, Mrs. Adams was standing at the threshold, apparently having come through the back door from the parking lot, looking at the boy just like me. As I kept watching him, who was called by a female staff member, and returned to his room, Mrs. Adams said, "Here you go," and handed me slippers. I was led into the principal's office and seated on a sofa, sipping the coffee that had been prepared for me, when the principal came in with a small photo album.
Sorry to keep you waiting. I found these old photos while organizing paperwork the other day. I thought I'd give them to you before you head back to New York.
The principal said that and took out a photograph. It was a picture of 10-year-old me and my grandfather, who lived in New York, standing in front of the entrance to this facility. This?
Do you remember? We took it the day you left.
Both of us were glaring at the camera with expressions that were hard to read, whether we were smiling or angry. My grandfather was only 70 at the time, standing taller and looking younger. I remember, I didn't know what face to make, and I was really troubled. I think my grandfather felt the same. I said with a laugh,
Your grandfather must have been lonely after you went to college here, right? When you went back for your job offer ceremony last year, you were in a rush because of your busy research, weren't you?
I carefully put the photo into my jacket's breast pocket.
You have to take care of your grandfather when you get back.
Right, I replied, and finished drinking the rest of my coffee. Before heading to the waiting room after completing the boarding process, I called my grandfather.
"Thomas, what's up? You already in New York?"
My grandfather answered the phone in a raspy voice, almost sounding angry. "I'm about to board the plane now. I'll be in New York in the evening. Did my luggage arrive?"
"Yeah, I carried it into your room. By the way, Thomas."
"Huh?
"Are you sure you really made the right decision taking a job here?"
"What? Why would you say that?"
"Never mind. Just be careful on your way home. I'll have someone pick you up at the airport."
Grandpa abruptly hung up the phone. Not again. He always holds back on saying what's truly important. He's been like that since I was a child.
"Your soda's going to be lukewarm,"
he said, looking at me gripping my can of soda. I'd been so nervous, even forgot to take a sip. The zoo on a weekday was nearly empty, and even the popular animal enclosures were available. The morning after Grandpa had brought me to New York from the facility, he woke me up, saying, "We're going to the zoo." I bought a carbonated drink from a shop at the resting corner near the primate enclosure and sat across from him on a bench. I drank the soda nervously. He watched me drink, squinting his eyes, as if watching a panda munching on bamboo. Suddenly, I spotted a mother and baby chimpanzee. Look, a baby chimpanzee. I left my half-finished soda and ran to the enclosure. A nearby zookeeper explained that this wasn't the real mother, but a female chimpanzee with birthing experience was caring for the baby, whose real mother had died of illness. Grandpa, who had quietly come to stand beside me, said,
"I wonder if that baby is truly happy."
When I responded with maybe, he asked, "Why do you think so?" I was about to say something when he cut me off, saying, "Well, never mind," and started to walk away. I couldn't call back this old man, whose name I still didn't know what to call, and I followed him, feeling as if I'd done something wrong. When I reached the arrival lobby at the airport, Harrison was there, waiting, and ran up to me. He has been Grandpa's secretary and driver since I was little.
"Welcome back, Thomas."
Harrison, with his small frame, gave me a big hug with a beaming smile. "I'm back. Thanks for coming to get me, Harrison." The freeway was congested.
"Your grandfather has been eagerly awaiting your return,"
Harrison said, with a knowing smile. "How's his health?"
"Yes, he received a clean bill of health at his last checkup."
That's a relief. I relaxed into the seat.
"He's always been confident about his physical strength since he was young. Remember, your last elementary school field day."
Harrison spoke to me through the rearview mirror. I saw Grandpa sitting in the guest seat. Harrison was beside him, holding a video camera. I was at the start line of the obstacle race, nervous. I had promised Grandpa the night before that I'd come in first place. Losing was not an option. The race began with the sound of the starting pistol. Everyone took off at once, clearing obstacles one after the other. Finally, we had to pick a piece of paper from a box and find the object written on it to reach the goal. I was in the lead and pulled a paper. It read your favorite person or thing. I looked around, bewildered. During that time, the other kids who were behind caught up and passed me. I made up my mind and stood before my grandfather. "Grandpa, come on." He said, "All right," and took my hand and ran. We came in third place. I was somehow very happy.
"I can still run more,"
he said, panting, and slumped at the finish line.
"Have you completely worn out?"
Harrison laughed as he recorded my grandfather, and then he zoomed in on the paper I was holding and asked, "What's written on this paper?" Suddenly, Harrison said, "Something got in my eye," and went away somewhere. "Do you still have that video you took at that time?"
"Yes, of course. Would you like to watch it with your grandfather later?"
"Nah, that's fine." He chuckled. The 0.2-acre property with a pure Japanese-style mansion looked like a temple or inn from the outside. With its stone walls and white plaster, roofed Japanese gate, and artfully arranged pine and bamboo plants in the garden. As a young boy living in a small apartment, I felt uneasy in this large mansion at first and spent all my time playing in the garden. While imitating my grandfather and feeding the carps in the pond, I was staggered to hear from Harrison that a single carp could cost tens of thousands of dollars.
"These beautiful carps and garden were cared for by your late grandmother. So, Thomas, please love them,"
Harrison said, looking lovingly at the garden. I remember it like it was yesterday. Getting out of the car and passing through the gate, Mrs. Smith was waiting outside the entrance. She is the housekeeper of this house, a talented cook in her late 50s, and someone I adore like a mother. Mrs. Smith, I'm home. Glad to see you're well.
Thomas, welcome back. I made all your favorite dishes for dinner,
she said, pushing me on the back.
Now, your grandfather is waiting for you.
He was reading a book in his study. I'm back now.
Welcome back from your long trip. You must be tired. Take a rest.
He said only that and returned his gaze to the book. Has he lost weight? His voice seems to lack vigor. I became a little worried. How's your health?
Oh, I'm fine. The doctor just told me you don't look 84 the other day.
My grandfather said, taking off his reading glasses.
How about you? Must have been tough researching at the university.
Then he continued.
Developing medicine is a painful job that requires constant patience and effort. You could have taken an easier and more glamorous job.
I want to do something useful for people.
Still concerned about what I told you when I took you in?
My grandfather said when he took me in, I'll let you study anything you want. Just become someone who can be useful to others. As a child, I somehow took it as a condition to become part of my grandfather's family. If I study hard and become a doctor or a lawyer, would he be pleased? I used to think about that, but now it's different. Now, driven by a stronger feeling, I want to pour everything into drug development. Bram Purdy. At that moment, Mrs. Smith's voice came from beyond the door.
Dinner's ready.
Let's go. She has cooked just for you,
he said as he stood up and left the room. On the morning of the first day at work, dressed in a brand new suit, I greeted my grandfather. I'm leaving now, he said. You've got this, as he sent me off. Harrison had offered to drive me, but I had decided to commute by train, so I declined. Smith adjusted my tie, patted my shoulders, and said, "Good luck with the new employee's greeting," giving me a thumbs up. On the first day at work, the 130 new employees who had beaten high competition looked tense. The presidents gave us a speech, followed by the awarding of appointments, introductions of executives and department heads, and finally, the new employees' greetings. I was introduced by my boss as Thomas Palmer, the new employee representative assigned to the Pharmaceutical Research Institute of the Research Department, and got ready for the speech. Before the speech, I expressed my greetings to the president and my bosses. In my speech, I revealed a feeling I have always had since I was 14. 10 years ago, a dear family member suffered from a life-threatening illness. Fortunately, they had surgery, and there's been no recurrence, and they are now living healthily. But we never know when illness might strike again. I decided that I never want to see anyone fight against illness alone. So, I studied pharmacology in college to cure that disease. I want to use my emotions and experience to create sincere medicine for all those suffering from illnesses and those who hold the thought, I don't want to lose my loved ones, with all my might. I was applauded by my colleagues and bosses. After work, we went to a restaurant for dinner together. I enjoyed food and conversation with fellow new employees from the same research department, whom I had met at the job offer ceremony.
I was touched by your speech earlier. Bravo!
Suddenly, a young boss applauded and called out to me. I thanked him, confused, saying, "Thank you."
How on earth could you come up with such a made-up story? Don't show off just because it's in front of the president.
He, perhaps drunk, had a glazed look, and snatched the champagne I was holding and chugged it.
Reality isn't that simple. How many years do you think it will take to develop a drug? You, who knows nothing, Don't talk about something like dreams, you idiot.
I glared at him and said, "Nobody can predict the future. Perhaps tomorrow we may find a clue to a cure for an intractable disease. That's what attracted me to pharmacology." He looked incredulous and sighed.
Which college did you go? I bet it was some low-tier college.
My young boss, who had graduated from a top private university and worked as a medical representative with top sales, talked incessantly about things I hadn't even asked. That's impressive. I'm from a university in Nebraska.
Huh? You graduated from a pharmaceutical department in Nebraska and you got into this company? It's a miracle. A miracle. But I would love to see the face of a parent who could only send their child to such a college.
My parents have nothing to do with it. I chose that college myself. I was patted my head by him, was said, "Sore losing is unbecoming," and I was laughed loudly. At that moment, I felt a presence behind us.
"What's going on with my grandson?"
A sudden voice made me turn around in surprise, and my grandfather, who was supposed to be at home, was standing there with Harrison and other executives. "Grandpa," Harrison smiled and said, "Indeed, he wanted to see your big day, so I brought him here. You gave a grand speech. It was splendid." My young boss laughed even louder, saying, "What? You brought a guardian here?" Grandpa frowned and yelled at the still confused him, "Call your boss here right now." His boss, the sales manager, came running, his face red with embarrassment.
"You. What are you doing? This gentleman here is our company's chairman, Jason Palmer, and that new employee over there is his family."
My young boss stumbled and looked at me, saying, What is going on?" Then heard another voice from behind.
"Thomas, what happened? Are you all right?"
I turned around to see the president standing there. "Uncle James, I mean, Mr. President." My brother actually said James, my beloved childhood figure and the sole son of my grandpa, the president of Palmer Pharmaceuticals, hugging my shoulders. He said, "I've got no complaints about the son of the man who saved my father's life," and laughed. He had affectionately watched over me since adopting me as a child when I lost my parents.
Well, what?
He was overwhelmed by surprise, stumbled, grabbed a nearby tablecloth, and fell dramatically. The sound of breaking dishes and screams filled the room.
"What are you doing, you fool?"
The sales manager yelled even louder in anger. As Harrison helped him, now covered in some kind of sauce, to his feet, he added,
"And let me tell you, Thomas Palmer's College is not just any local university. It's one of the prestigious state universities. Thomas admired a professor there since high school and wanted to study under him, seeing his research up close. So don't talk like you know everything."
I was a bit shocked to hear the usually gentle Harrison speak angrily.
I am sorry.
Looking down, the senior employee mumbled his apology, and Grandpa spoke up.
"Being a medical representative is busy and stressful, with so much knowledge to acquire. But if someone who sells healing medicines hurts others, it's no good at all. Take some time to reflect on yourself, your job, and your heart."
He apologized sincerely. After the commotion, Grandpa and I were on the rooftop terrace of the restaurant. The place is filled with plants of various sizes and grass growing at our feet. There are timber-laid walkways and wooden benches here and there. It was such a pleasant place, filled with sky and greenery, that it was easy to forget we were on a restaurant rooftop. We sat on a bench in an observation area with a view of the city skyline. "I hope he doesn't get into too much trouble," I murmured, and Grandpa chuckled.
"You were the same when you first came to live with us, getting into a brawl during a school visit. But in the end, you were concerned about the other person. You've always been a kind child."
That day was a school visit, and Grandpa had come to watch. I had been called a country bumpkin by the guy sitting next to me, who had teased me in a whisper during class, saying, "Your dad looks like your grandpa." In my anger, I stood up and shoved him. I said, "He's not my dad. He's my grandpa." I yelled, and we ended up in a fist fight. Naturally, the class was interrupted. The teacher was furious, and the other parents were in an uproar when Grandpa shouted,
"Good, good. Men should be like this."
Then he laughed loudly. Everyone else started laughing, and the atmosphere instantly relaxed. Grandpa. On the way home from school, I called him like that for the first time as we walked together. He turned around and said, "What's up?" I felt happy somehow and said, "I hope he doesn't get scolded too much." He patted my head and said, smiling, "Getting hungry. Let's go home." Yeah, I remember that, but it must have been because I was happy. And then I continued. I was happy enough to care about others, both then and now. It's all thanks to you, Grandpa. He looked at the distant scenery and smiled. Then he asked, "How did you find out about the illness?" "Well, of course I know. We live together. You lied about going to a spa for a treatment and came back after surgery as if nothing had happened, but your diet changed and you lost a lot of weight. Plus, the medicine. I looked up the medication you were taking on the internet." He said, impressed, "Really? Why didn't you tell me about the illness? Is it because I'm not your real family?" Then he thought for a moment and continued, "I didn't want to burden you. I wanted you to live freely without being tied to anything. I thought that's what your father would have wanted too." And he went on,
"When you said you were going to take the college entrance exam in your hometown, I felt both happy and sad that you were growing up and leaving my side to return home. I thought I might have returned the favor to your father."
Return the favor? I looked at his face. He had tears in his eyes.
"Thomas, I'm sorry for keeping this from you. Actually, I am. The one your father saved from the fire 14 years ago is."
"You're the one Dad saved, right?" He turned to me.
"How did you know?"
I kind of figured maybe that was it. When I was a kid, I saw it by chance. When you were changing your clothes, there were big burn scars from your shoulder to arm."
"I'm so sorry."
Suddenly, he rose from the bench, fell to his knees, and broke down in tears.
"If only I hadn't been too late to escape, your father would have survived. Forgive me, please."
I knelt down in front of my trembling grandpa, who was almost in a position of groveling. "Why are you apologizing? I was so happy to be taken in by you, Grandpa. I was really happy that Dad saved you, Grandpa. I've never held a grudge." And then I continued, "I'm truly grateful that you fought your illness alone so you wouldn't worry me. Thank you for being alive and for being by my side. Thank you, Grandpa." He cried out in pain and wept. Several years later, I was absorbed in developing new drugs. Mrs. Smith continues to work as a maid even in her old age. "Make sure you eat properly, no matter how busy you are," she told